You could master every dating strategy, perfect your appearance, say all the right things, but if you miss these 4 rules, you'll never tap into the secret desires men have, but will never admit out loud, and here's what's going to shock you. These rules have nothing to do with being more sexual, more submissive, or more accommodating. They have everything to do with triggering something deep in the masculine brain that even men themselves don't fully understand. A primal attraction they can't explain and won't confess to anyone. I'm going to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable, but it's the absolute truth. The women who men secretly fantasize about, think about when they're alone, and can't stop wanting aren't necessarily the ones who look like models or act like fantasies. They're the ones who accidentally trigger psychological desires that men have been taught to hide. And once you understand these 4 rules, you'll never have to guess again why some women become obsessions while others become options. What if I told you that men have secret desires they're ashamed to admit because society has told them these desires are wrong? That the very qualities you've been told to hide are actually what men crave most desperately but feel they can't ask for. Today we're going to expose 4 hidden truths about what men secretly desire in women. Desires so powerful that when triggered they create an attraction men can't ignore, even when they try. But here's the catch. Accessing these desires requires you to be exactly what you've been told not to be. Before we reveal the 4 rules, let's talk about what male desire really is. Male desire isn't just physical attraction or emotional connection. It's something deeper, something men rarely talk about because they've been conditioned to believe these desires make them shallow, old-fashioned, or politically incorrect. Most women have been taught that men want sex, companionship, and someone who makes their life easier. But here's what years of honest conversations with thousands of men has revealed. The women who haunt men's thoughts are the ones who satisfy desires men don't even know they have until they meet someone who fulfills them. Men are biologically wired to want certain things they've been socially programmed to deny. And when you understand what those things are, not the surface-level obvious ones, but the hidden psychological needs, you unlock a level of attraction that feels almost unfair. Think about the women men write songs about, make movies about, or can't stop mentioning years after a relationship ends. These women didn't just make men happy or comfortable, they tapped into something primal that men couldn't resist, even when logic told them to walk away. The 4 rules we're about to uncover aren't socially acceptable to discuss. They're not what modern dating advice tells you, they're the raw, honest truth about what makes a man's brain light up in ways he can't control and won't admit. They're about understanding that men have a secret side to their desire that they've learned to hide from judgment. So if you've been confused about why men say they want one thing but seem drawn to something completely different, if you've been doing everything right but still not creating that deep consuming attraction, this is your answer. The woman you're becoming doesn't just meet men's stated preferences, she triggers their unstated obsessions. Rule 1. Be the woman who doesn't need him. The first secret desire men will never admit: they desperately want a woman who doesn't desperately want them. Every man will tell you he wants someone who values him, appreciates him, makes him feel needed. But here's the hidden truth. What men secretly crave is a woman whose happiness doesn't depend on their presence. Men don't just want independence. In theory, they're viscerally attracted to women who genuinely don't need them to feel complete. Here's what men will never confess in polite conversation. Neediness kills their desire faster than anything else. Not the kind of need that comes from genuine connection, but the kind that comes from emptiness. When a woman's entire emotional state rises and falls based on a man's attention, something inside him recoils even as he pretends to be flattered. Deep in the masculine psychology, there's a drive to pursue what feels valuable and rare. But when a woman immediately centers her entire world around a man, he can't help but wonder if she has nothing else going on. What did I really win here? A woman who men secretly desire doesn't ask if having her own life makes her seem distant. She lives a life so fulfilling that a man has to earn his place in it. She doesn't wonder if her independence will intimidate men. She knows it intoxicates the ones worth having. This isn't about playing games or pretending not to care. This is about the raw, honest truth that men are hardwired to be attracted to challenge, not convenience. When you have your own goals, your own friends, your own sources of joy that existed before him and will exist without him, something in his brain marks you as high value. Think about how men talk about the women they can't get over. They don't say, "She needed me so much." They say, "She had this amazing life and I felt lucky to be part of it." They don't romanticize the women who made them their whole world. They obsess over the women whose world they had to work to enter. The right man won't be threatened by the fact that you don't need him. He'll be obsessed with becoming someone you choose to keep around anyway. Because here's what men secretly think but rarely say. The woman who needs nothing from me but chooses to be with me anyway is the woman I can't stop thinking about. When you cancel your plans to see him every time he's available, when you drop everything the moment he texts, when your entire schedule revolves around his availability, you think you're showing interest, but what you're actually showing is that nothing in your life is more important than his attention. And that makes his attention feel less valuable to give. But when you have commitments you won't break, friendships you prioritize, goals you're actively pursuing, passions that excite you just as much as he does, something shifts in his mind. Suddenly, getting your time feels like winning something. Your attention becomes a prize, not a given. Your self-sufficiency isn't a barrier to his desire, it's the foundation of it. And the man who's worth having will be drawn to your fullness, not threatened by it. Rule 2. Be unpredictably present. The second secret desire men hide. They're addicted to women they can't quite figure out. Every dating expert tells you to be consistent, reliable, always respond the same way. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Men won't say out loud. Predictability breeds boredom, and boredom kills desire faster than anything else. Men are drawn to women who keep them slightly off balance in the best possible way, not through manipulation or game playing, but through genuine complexity. Here's what happens in a man's brain that he'll never explain. When he can predict exactly how you'll respond, exactly what you'll say, exactly how available you'll be, his nervous system stops being activated by you. You become comfortable, safe, forgettable. But when you're sometimes available and sometimes genuinely busy, when you're sometimes warm and sometimes lost in your own world, when you're predictable in your values but unpredictable in your moods and availability, something in his brain stays alert. He never quite knows what version of you he's going to get, and that uncertainty creates a chemical addiction. A woman who inspires secret desire doesn't follow a script. She's genuinely engaged one day and genuinely distracted the next. She's deeply interested in his stories sometimes and clearly thinking about her own things other times. She shows up fully when she's present, but isn't always present. And she never apologizes for either. This doesn't mean being emotionally unstable or intentionally inconsistent. It means being human, being real, allowing yourself to have different moods and energy levels instead of performing the same agreeable personality every single time. Most women think they need to be the same version of themselves in every interaction to be trustworthy. But here's the truth. Men don't fall in love with predictable. They fall in love with dynamic. They're drawn to women who have different sides, different moods, different levels of availability depending on what else is happening in their lives. When you're sometimes the life of the party and sometimes quietly observant. When you're sometimes chasing your dreams and sometimes completely focused on connection. When you're impossible to put in a box, men's brains stay engaged, trying to understand you. This unpredictability isn't about playing hot and cold or sending mixed signals about your interest. It's about being genuinely multidimensional. It's about having days when you're completely available to connect and days when you're absorbed in your own world. It's about responding enthusiastically when something genuinely excites you and responding neutrally when something doesn't. Men say they want someone easy to understand, someone who doesn't keep them guessing. But watch what actually keeps them up at night. It's not the woman they've completely figured out. It's the woman who keeps revealing new layers, new dimensions, new sides of herself that don't fit the box he initially put her in. Here's what men think but won't tell you. The woman I can't quite predict is the woman I can't stop thinking about. The woman who's always the same becomes background noise, but the woman who surprises me becomes an obsession. Your unpredictability isn't instability, it's intrigue. And men are secretly addicted to what they can't fully predict or completely understand. Rule 3. Have standards that don't bend. Of the third secret male desire that society has shamed into silence. Men are desperately attracted to women who have boundaries they won't cross for anyone. Every man will say he wants someone flexible, understanding, easygoing. But here's the truth. They're embarrassed to admit they're magnetically drawn to women who have lines they absolutely will not let anyone cross. Men don't just respect standards, they're secretly turned on by women who enforce them without apology. Here's what's happening in masculine psychology that men have learned not to discuss. When a woman has weak boundaries that move depending on how much she likes someone, a man's subconscious marks her as low value. Not because he's cruel, but because humans are wired to value what's protected and scarce. But when a woman has clear standards and enforces them consistently, when she'll walk away from even someone she's attracted to if her boundaries are crossed, something primal in a man's brain lights up. She becomes the challenge, the prize, the woman who can't be won through charm alone. A woman who triggers secret desire doesn't negotiate her standards based on how attractive a man is. She has rules about how she'll be treated, and those rules don't change whether she's talking to someone average or someone exceptional. She doesn't explain why she deserves respect, she simply expects it and removes herself from situations where it's not present. This isn't about being rigid or unreasonable. This is about the raw truth that men are biologically programmed to pursue what requires effort to attain. When your standards are firm, when a man realizes he actually has to rise up to meet them or he'll lose access to you, his desire intensifies. Men will tell you they want easy and accommodating, but watch what they actually chase. They chase the woman who said no when their behavior was questionable. They obsess over the woman who walked away when her boundaries were tested. They can't stop thinking about the woman who wouldn't bend her values even for someone she was attracted to. Think about the women men describe as the one that got away. They're almost never the women who were endlessly accommodating and flexible. They're the women who had standards the man couldn't meet at the time. And those standards made her unforgettable. When you have a boundary about how you'll be treated, don't explain it. Don't justify it. Don't apologize for it. Simply state it and enforce it. I don't do casual. Doesn't need to be followed by your entire relationship history. I expect consistency. Doesn't need a 20-minute explanation. Your standards speak for themselves through your willingness to walk away when they're not met. Here's what men secretly feel, but society has taught them not to say. The woman who doesn't need to prove her worth by lowering her standards is the woman I can't help but want to prove myself to. The woman whose respect I have to earn is the woman whose attention feels like an achievement. When you lower your standards for a man you're attracted to, you think you're being flexible and reasonable. But what you're actually doing is telling him that your boundaries were never that important to begin with. And if your boundaries aren't important to you, they definitely won't be important to him. Your unbending standards aren't obstacles to desire. They're the very thing that creates it. Because men are wired to value what they have to work for and respect what they can't easily obtain. Rule 4. Be sexually confident but selectively available. The fourth and most controversial secret desire: men are intensely drawn to women who own their sexuality but don't give it away freely. This is the desire men feel most ashamed about because it sounds like a double standard, but it's neurologically real. Men crave women who are sexually confident but choose carefully who gets access to that confidence. Here's the truth that makes everyone uncomfortable. Men are attracted to sexual confidence, the kind of woman who clearly knows what she wants and isn't ashamed of her desires, but simultaneously, they're wired to place higher value on women who are selective about who they share that part of themselves with. This isn't about morality or outdated values. This is about raw masculine psychology. When a woman projects sexual confidence, she triggers attraction. When she combines that confidence with selectivity about who earns access to her, she triggers obsession. A woman who men secretly desire radiates sexual energy without immediately offering sexual availability. She's comfortable in her body, confident in her appeal, unashamed of her desires, but she doesn't hand that part of herself to just anyone who shows interest. She makes a man feel like if he gets chosen, he's won something rare. This doesn't mean playing games with intimacy or using sex as manipulation. This means understanding that men are hardwired through evolution to be more intensely attracted to women who appear to be selective about mating. It's not conscious, it's not fair, it's just biological reality. When you're clearly sexual but not sexually available to everyone. When you project confidence in your desirability without proving it by being easy to attain. When you let a man know that your body is a privilege he has to earn through genuine connection and respect, something ancient in his brain marks you as high value. Most women make one of two mistakes. Either they hide their sexuality completely, thinking it makes them more respectable, or they offer it too quickly, thinking it creates connection. But the woman who triggers deep male desire does neither. She owns her sexuality fully while being highly selective about who gets access to it. Men will say they want a woman who's immediately physically available, but watch what they actually develop obsessive desire for. They develop obsessive desire for the woman who was clearly interested but made them wait. They can't stop thinking about the woman who was confident in her sexuality but selective about sharing it. Think about it this way. When you immediately become physically intimate with someone you barely know, you think you're creating closeness, but what you're actually doing is answering the question of pursuit before the man has fully invested in asking it. You're removing the mystery, the challenge, the sense that he's earning something valuable. But when you radiate sexual confidence while maintaining clear boundaries about physical intimacy, when you make it clear that you know your worth in that arena and don't give it away to just anyone, when you let attraction build through tension rather than immediate gratification, you create a psychological state in men that borders on obsession. Here's what men think but feel guilty. Admitting, the woman who makes me work to earn physical intimacy becomes more valuable in my mind with every boundary she sets. The woman who's sexually confident but makes me prove I'm worthy of that confidence becomes an obsession I can't shake. This doesn't mean withholding affection as a punishment or using physical intimacy as a reward system. It means understanding that the buildup of tension, the gradual earning of trust, the process of proving worthiness creates a psychological bond that immediate,